Hey, Shalom, Yahawah for joining. About to get started in just a little bit. Let me go ahead and just see if I can post on my other channels real quick. I can't charge this, so no posting. All right, no worries. We're about to get started real quick. So today's lesson is going to be on you can't stop the great awakening of the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, otherwise known as the Israelites, and coming back to our true heritage and reclaiming our former glory. But before we get into that, let's go and give all honor and glory and praises to Yahawah, Ba'Shem, Yahawashi, Ba'Shem, Qadash, Barak the Yahawah, Barak the Yahawashi, Barak the Yahawah, Barak the Yahawashi, Barak the Yahawah, Barak the Yahawashi, Ba'Shem, Qadash. Double honors to my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who are the house of David reborn again in this generation. And shalom to the 1/3 of Yahawah, who today we're known as the Negros, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. So again, like I said, today's lesson is titled The Great Awakening of the Negro, Latino, and Native Americans, which is referring to the coming back, right, from the great falling away of the Negro, Latino, and Native Americans, or the Israelites, which were, when we were sent into captivity all over the world. We were scattered into the four corners of the earth, and we've lost our heritage, and we've forgotten who we were. Well, times are now changing, right, and the Lord has now put it into the spirit of us Israelites, right, those who have been chosen, 144,000 plus the 1/3, to pay attention to the message that's being brought out, right? What's that message? Is that the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, we are the Israelites of the Bible. We are the true rulers of this world, okay? But the thing is that for history to play out and for God's prophecy to play out, we had to go into a captivity to our enemies, right? And our enemies had to be given a time to rule themselves, okay? But let's go ahead and read this scripture real quick. This is Revelations. Let's see, it's 11 and 8. And their dead bodies shall lay in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And they of the people and the kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. Okay, now that right there is talking about us Israelites. Okay, now this namely here is referred to the two witnesses that will appear at the end time. Now, who are those two witnesses, right? Because a lot of people out there, a lot of these Christians and a lot of these false doctrines that purport to explain what the Bible is, they try to say that there's going to be literally two old men, big old beards, are going to come upon the face of the earth, and they're going to be witnesses like in the old days when the prophets were around, right? No, that's not it, right? Those two witnesses that are going to appear at the end time are talking about the northern kingdom of Israel, meaning the Latinos or the Native Americans, and the southern kingdom of Israel, the so-called Negros. That out of these groups of people are going to arise certain men, and these men are going to be referred to as prophets, teachers, right, elders, apostles, and they are going to be out here doing what I'm doing here, basically, telling the world through video, in person, and basically being a witness to the wickedness of this place, Babylon the Great, which is what America is referred to in the Bible. Okay, see, we are those two witnesses that have been tormenting America, or Sodom, or what the Bible say, spiritually known as Sodom and Egypt. And why is it known as Sodom? Well, we all know that, right? It's very plain. We just came out of the wicked month of June, which is for Pride Month, okay? And the thing is that this whole place here, it's being devoured by that spirit of sodomy, and also we're seeing the pedophilia starting to come out, and these devils are trying to normalize it, right? And why is that? Well, because this place is Sodom, spiritually Sodom all over again, okay? And another thing it says, and Egypt. Now, why is America known as Egypt. Well, again, when the Bible was referring to all these nations throughout the historic records of the Bible, in prophecy, it always mentioned the great cities of those times, right? And this time, America, it would be considered a great city, okay? And it would be the Egypt of its times, right? The place, the city, the country where all nations flock onto it, right? All nations come on to basically, be at rest under. Well, that's America, okay? And besides that aspect of it, you also got the aspect of these Edomites here, the so-called Caucasian race, descend from the Edomites, which had taken over Egypt back in the time of the Ptolemy, when Alexander the Great had went through, conquered the known world, and his empire was divided up into four. Ptolemy, one of his four generals, taking the southern kingdom of Alexander's entire kingdom, that being Egypt and Africa, and they ultimately could rule over Egypt all the way down until the lineage of Cleopatra, again, who was a so-called white lady, or we refer to as a Jewish lady today, right? But ultimately she's an Edomite of the top tribe of Abel, okay? And these people here that rule over this place are Edomites, and namely the Amalekites, the top tribe of Edom, or who you would call today the so-called Jewish people, are the top rulers of the Edomites, okay? They're the ones that own the banks, own basically the political parties here, own all the legal system, right? This is why, and then besides that as well, you have the people who are basically the physical representation of Satan here upon earth, which would be these Freemasons, okay? The Freemasons, when you look into what they actually practice, the occult teachings of the Freemasons, it all goes back to Egyptology, and it goes back to all those mystery lessons and rituals that come from Egypt, which ultimately came from the previous world civilization, Atlantis and all those places, okay? So that's why this place is referred to as Sodom in Egypt. Now, when it tells you here, it says that they would not suffer their bodies to be put into graves, meaning that these people, at least at the very top of the power echelon here in America, and also for that matter around the world, they know, they have the records, they have the evidence that points to us Negro, Latino, Native Americans being the Israelites, the original Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites of the Bible, right? But instead of them telling us this, instead of them teaching this in their schools, making this a known fact, what do? They hide it. They hide it, and they try to make it seem as if it's some sort of outlandish claim, right? That we're crazy, and that they're the ones out here speaking the truth. When we all know, well, us hearing this truth is, we all know that they're lying through their teeth, that they've absconded our identity, and they're claiming to be us, right? Which is what ultimately gives them that veneer, that covering cast, that they're able to do all this wicked shit over there in the land of Israel and around the world, right? They claim to be God's chosen people, but they're not, right? We're God's chosen people, and now we're understanding this, and now we're actually starting to wake up, right? And how does that happen? Well, because again, the Lord has put it into our spirits, right? To pay attention to this, and also to wake up our people, and to go and for our people, starting with Abba Bivens and all the other teachers, to go out to the streets to teach our people that we are the Israelites. Hey, brother, you know that we're the Israelites in the Bible? That we're the people spoken about in the Bible. See? And a lot of our people are walking around, looking at this, looking at people like me, the apostles and the brothers, But when you tell them about this, what do they just keep walking on? They shrug the shoulder. They pay no attention. But see, little do they know that the Lord is hiding this magnificent and incredible truth in something that looks foolish, right? And that's ultimately what the Lord is doing. The Lord has ultimately hidden this truth from the majority of the people, even our people, because he doesn't want everybody. The Lord tells you in Matthew 13 and 10 that this truth is not for everybody, that it's only made for a particular group of people, right? We know those people today as the elect and the 144,000 of the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, that being 1 out of every 3 Negro, Latino, Native Americans that are going to have the wherewithal, right? They've been put into their mind and also their experiences that when they come across this truth, they're not going to scoff at it. They're not going to simply just walk on and pay it no attention, right? They're going to understand that this information does have validity and it has value, right? See, a lot of these people out here, they've been basically misled to basically feel or to put value on things that are of no value, okay? Like the wickedness of the today, the lifestyle of America, the alphabetic community, that's been shown by the wicked Babylonian system to have a sort of value, but it doesn't, right? Also, forgetting yourself, forgetting your people, and coming together and melting together as one in this great melting pot, that's seen as a valuable trait, right? The whole get along, we're all the same. See, but again, the problem is that's of no value, because when you understand what's really going on, when the Bible breaks down that there's a race going on, right, which includes the races, and that ultimately the race that has been given over to the Israelites, the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, the Israelites, because we were the ones that God chose, okay? But I said enough on that. Let's go and read this. It says, Ezekiel, because you got to remember, for us Israelites, for us to have a great awakening, we had to have a great falling away, which the Messiah said that this would be the sign of the before the great horrible day, the end days. That there had to be a great falling away first, and that eventually the man of perdition, the wicked one, would be revealed. Well, we're coming out of that great falling away, and us Negro, Latino, Native Americans are now starting to come back to find out who we are in history, right? We find out that we're the original Hebrew Israelites of the Bible, right? And how's that? Well, through archaeology, through historic records that have survived the destructions and fires of the conquistadors, the Europeans, all these wicked monarchies that have destroyed these records to try to hide us as a people, right? See, so now that we're waking up, we're starting to find these records, we're starting to find these testimonies, right? Starting with the apostles, all the way down to brothers who've studied and looked for this information and make it available to brothers like me, you, right? We now learn these truths, and we now bring them out, and we start to educate our people, and little by little you start hearing this truth being uttered in the mouths of the common Israelite, right? We all hear it, right? We hear about how some celebrity made a reference to the 12 tribes of Israel, or talk about how we were the original Jews, right? You got, what is it? Sugar Ray Leonard, or the Money Crew guy, right? The boxer, right? He's talking about how he's that they're the original Jews, right? Or the original black Jews, right? See, you got people even like Kanye, right? Even though he's crazy, but he stumbled upon this truth, and he's taking it in. Now, he ultimately is bugged out, and he was a vessel unsuited for this information, which is why he bugged out even more. But the point being is that you're seeing this truth go out more and more over the common people of our people, okay? And what that is doing, that's causing a lot of fear to fall upon the leaders of this world, right? Not talking about your average Joe Schmo or his wife Karen or their kid Timmy, because they couldn't, give a crap about this, because one, they don't even understand what's going on. They honestly believe the narrative that they've been told about how America is the land of the brave, home of the free, and all those other platitudes which don't really mean shit, right? But the thing is for the true rulers of this world, along with those that have true power, the Freemasons and all these other houses of power, that understand who we truly are, and only know that their security and their power is only there as long as they keep us down. They see us starting to wake up, right? What do? First, they're starting to mock us, right? We've already seen that. They make comedians come out here and make fun of us, right? They belittle this movement. Then they hire people like Vocab Malone, Dr. Brown, come out here to simply do nothing else but attack the Hebrew Israelites, right? They don't even go into big world events that they should be going to as Christians, right? As people of religion. But what do? No, they skip over all these events that are going on, and they simply continue to attack like rabid dogs the doctrine of the Hebrew Israelites. And why is that? Well, because they're paid people to come out to try to refute this truth, right? Just like in the book of Nehemiah, when it talks about how there were people paid to basically make it harder for us to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, so people like Vocab Malone, Dr. Brown, Dr. James White, and all these other people, they're hirelings for the upper elites, and also even for their own good or for their own reasons to try to come up against this truth. Because why? Because they're trying to come up against this truth coming out and hence destroying their livelihood and their narratives. So let's go and get this. This is Ezekiel 37:1. We're going to read down all the way to 14. It says, "The hand of Yahawah was upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of Yahawah and set me down in the midst of the valley which was full of bones." Right? So right here at this point, Ezekiel was given a vision, right? And he was basically taken out of his, he had kind of like an out-of-body experience, I guess you could say, right? Where he was basically thrust into a vision where he was taken into this grand valley, and this valley was full of bones. Okay, well, let's find out what these bones were. It says, and caused me to pass by them round about. Behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord power, thou knowest. Again he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the words of Yahawah B'Shem Yahawashi. Right? So there you go. So you see, this right here, in this vision, he was being shown a visual analogy of us Israelites in the end days. Right? See, the Lord likened us Israelites walking around here in Sodom and Egypt, in America, in a downtrodden way, even though we may have nice cars, we might have houses, we might have small families, right? But we're still here in a form of captivity under our enemies, right? They rule over us, even though sometimes they'll elevate some of us to council members, mayors, and they even say, they even try to say vice presidents and presidents. But the point being is that this is all for show. See, we're still here in the land of our captivities, being those servants to our masters, right? To our enemies. And that would be the Edomites that basically live off of the backs of us here working day and night, right? From cradle to grave, right? The whole 9 to 5, going to school, because even going to school is a form of slavery, but that's simply just your hardcore training there for your future life of servitude, okay? And it isn't until, what is it now, 72 here in America that you finally get to retire at. From once you're 72, you're decrepit, you can't hardly move. So do you really? So what? You're gonna get about another 10 years and die off when you're like in your mid to late 80s. So are you supposed to travel the world, build up your empire and set up a kingdom for your family? No. See, because why? Because you're simply here as a prisoner to serve out your captivity. Because why? Because ultimately the Lord allowed our enemies to capture us, make us captives, and ultimately put us into generational servitude here in America under them. Okay. So let's get on. It says, verse 5. Thus saith Yahawah B'Shem Yahawashi power unto these dry bones, and behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. Right? So these bones, like I said, they're not just regular bones. This is an analogy of the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, right? And in this case here, as the Lord has commanded Ezekiel to prophesy onto these bones, prophesy mean say what's going to happen before it happens, right? And how does he do that? Well, by reading the words out of this Bible, right? And again, that's what we ultimately do here, starting with the apostles, the brothers of Great Millstone, and the other camps, right, that are out here teaching the doctrine that the apostles have set forth as it's the word of God, right? We break down the prophecies found in the Bible and ultimately explain it to our people, so that way you understand that when these things come to pass, you understand that, man, those Israelites, they were actually telling the truth. They mentioned all this would happen. right? So this way you understand that the words Lord, that the Lord's words, are more powerful than what they, predict on the news and what these devils are predicting to happening. Okay? So that being said, let's continue. It says, thus saith Yahawah B'Shem Hashai, power unto these dry bones. Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and I will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am Yahawah B'Shem Hashai. Right? And right there, the Lord said it twice, right? The Lord's going to breathe onto them and put breath into them. Right? What is that breath that the Lord's going to put into us? Well, that breath is talking about the Holy Spirit, which is the understanding of the Bible. Right? Remember, like I've said, Akim, how when you're hearing these lessons, you're putting together the studying and everything you've gathered from me, the apostles, all the other brothers out here who are teaching you, right? What you're doing is you're putting together a garment, a spiritual garment for yourself, right? Now, ultimately, it's up to you, is if you're going to build that garment righteously, or you're going to build it all willy-nilly, and it's going to have holes, it's going to be the wrong size, it's not going to be to the right length, it's going to be, a bunch of fray, it's going to look all messy if you start going out to a lot of these weird, Hebrew Israelite groups, which are known to be misleading our people, like IUIC, the GOCC, One Body in Yahawashi. Like, you go to all these weirdos and you start putting together their doctrines, which are totally, wrong, false breakdowns, and you try to meld that into what we're here teaching you, right? Because again, we are the ones who got the 100% truth. We're the ones that the Lord set up, plain and simple. When you get into the Bible, you get into statistically, how this thing has ran from Abba Bivens all the way down to the apostles. It's very plain to see who are the true men of the Lord. Who are the men who are coming out to the highways and byways, teaching our people, out there putting out lessons, and not just having their leaders put out lessons, right? And we're always breaking things down correctly, the right ways, right? In fact, we're the ones who have to basically admonish the false teachers and tell them when they're going off, right? So again, that being said, that breath of life that the Lord is putting into you, described here in Ezekiel, is the knowledge, the wisdom, and understanding of the Bible, right? The Holy Spirit. And those who get a full breath of it, who get a full dose of this breath, that you finally wake up and you start understanding what's truly going on, and that's you now become a living soul, right? What did the Bible say? That the Lord breathed into Adam and made him a living soul. Well, why? How is that? Well, because he gave him the understanding, the wisdom, and the knowledge of the Bible, right? The laws, right? And that's ultimately what we should all be getting now, is the laws, the wisdom, and the understanding of the Bible, right? And in doing so, we're getting that breath from the Lord, and which is waking up and making our spirits come to life, right? And it's also building our spiritual garments, right? So that way, when all this stuff does go down, and you're starting to be presented with a lot of these tests, right? The mark of the beast, the going to these concentration camps, which they're going to say are relief camps, right? Or all these things. We're going to be in a better, have a better stance, because we're going to understand what's really going on. Because again, take for a moment, Akim, think about this, right? I talk to my friends about this, right? That we are lucky, we are blessed, because we have the true understanding of the Bible, and we understand what these devils are really doing. But take for a moment and consider the plight of your average day Babylonian, your average day American. They don't go into alternative news. They don't look at things. All they're doing for the most part is watching Modern Family or sports games, and they're going out and ordering 3 to 4 times a week from these processed food, fast food joints, right? And all their information they get is from, the couple of minutes that they watch on TV from the mainstream media, right? And that's it. They don't, because again, what is it? I think I've read a statistic where it said like 80% of people do not even watch news, right? Like, news to them is boring, right? So what do? These are people who spend their days, playing Pokemon or Magic the Gathering or video games, right? These grown adults who are playing with Legos and filling their time with a bunch of bullshit, right? Sports and all these other different things, everything except for politics or news, right? These are people who are willfully ignorant, who are purposely uninformed, right? Because why? Because they see it as a burden, and they're more worried about the bread and circuses here in Babylon the Great. Well, imagine these people. Imagine when they see that there was a big old pandemic, right? And they were being scared shitless by their own government and their own experts, right? To say that they would die if they didn't take the you-know-what, right? Why do you think so many people took it? Because a lot of these people don't have their own mind, I guess you say, right? They don't think for themselves. And besides that, what is it? Like only about 70% of people do not have an internal monologue, meaning that these are the people that throughout the years of indoctrination, the years of basically just being raised up all weird, right, through the modern day society, were never really taught to think, never thought to have their own thoughts, and now they're simply just walking automatons, right? They're simply just you give them something to say, you give them a bit of information, safe and effective. Oh, it's safe and effective. It's, terrorist. Oh, terrorism, right? This is the people that you're dealing with, right? What's the common thing now, right? Oh, Ukraine, right? Ukraine this, Ukraine that. See, this is what America, Babylon the Great, has done to the majority of the inhabitants here in America. It has brainwashed through its sorcery, its witchcraft, the people, right? And how does that witchcraft work? Well, it makes the news, it makes politics look boring, right? So it basically gets rid of that group of people, and those group of people, it basically just inundates them with a bunch of folly, a bunch of ridiculous, stupid entertainment. And these people just eat it up. They eat it up. That, along with all their fat butter and all these, what is it, high fructose corn syrup, and they just consume it. And ultimately, these people are just destroyed, right? They're destroyed in their body and they're destroyed in their minds. And these people ultimately are going to be destroyed spiritually once they ultimately fall for the indoctrination and ultimately the lies of their leaders, which are going to tell them to go take that charagma, right? But again, out here, right, us here, the Lord has set up a counterpart to that, and that would be us Israelites, the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, who are out here on the streets and online, telling our people what the truth of the Bible is and how it directly correlates with our current modern life. Because again, a lot of people who are not in the know, they like to say, "Oh, the Bible, that was back in the old days, man. That's in biblical times. That doesn't apply to now." Not realizing what the heck's going on, not understanding what the Bible truly is. That we are living in biblical times, except for we've been lied to, and we've been given a false understanding that these are modern, high scientific times where everything's about logic and what is it? Evidence, right? All these type of narratives are pushed around our society, right? Where you have today the highest amount of atheism, running rampant in America. And why is that? Well, because the younger generations haven't been taught the truth, and if they are taught anything about the Bible, it's what these false churches here that were set up a long time ago to mislead people have put forward, right? And the thing is little by little, the Bible and the truth of the Bible gets further and further away from your average day American, your average day Babylonian. So again, these people are lost. They're done for, man, and there's really no hope for them, unless they've gone through and they've educated themselves and they got a good head on their shoulders. Then until they hear this truth, they're gonna think it's silly, right? But those people who do understand what's going on, they understand history, they understand, they have at least a high school education or level education, or higher, right, where they have some sort of intellect, that when they hear these words, they might debate it a bit, but they won't be able to deny evidence and the truth found in the Bible. But your average, like I said again, your average day Babylonian has no understanding, right? And they speak all these proud words against what the words of the Lord, thinking that they've done something, right? Thinking that they believe, that they know that the Bible is a book of fairy tales, not even understanding, not even opening up the Bible themselves or ever reading it, right? But they know everything about it. And why? Because they've heard some witty quips on TV shows, people talking shit about the Bible, or they've heard all these horrible rumors, or not even rumors, but these horrible news events of these people, these pastors being caught at these churches who are basically molesting these kids. see, that ultimately is what a lot of people have fallen away from so-called religion, is because they have believed the false narrative set up from these churches about where you got all these pedophile priests, which that does happen, right? Because these are the false teachers out there, right? They're really Satanists, right? But in a veiled Satanism. That on these dry bones of this valley of death that Ezekiel was put into, and he was allowed to see these dry bones, was an analogy of us Israelites being here in America in this great valley of death known as Sodom and Egypt. Well, eventually the Lord told him to prophesy onto these bones and to tell them that the Lord is going to breathe onto them and put sinew and muscle and skin back upon these bones and then breathe into them and make them live. So again, by that breath of life that the Lord is talking about is what I'm doing right here, what the apostles are doing, what all these other brothers have been doing, right? We've been teaching our people the truth of the Bible, hence that is the breath of life, the Holy Spirit, which is now going into you and reawakening your spirit, reawakening you as a person. So again, you're not like these naive Americans out here walking to and fro, not understanding what's going on, right? You're actually being quickened. Your consciousness is now starting to awaken, and you're coming back to the truth of who you are. So you're no longer out here like these bag of dry bones, walking around aimlessly, dead. So let's get on. It says, verse 6, and I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am Yahawah, Ba'ashem Yahawashi. So I prophesied, and I was as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. So what is this talking about? Right? This is talking about the time of awakening that took place during the 70s, where you had the Black Panther movement, you had the Brown Beret movement, you had so basically the Brown Power, the Black Power, the Brown Power movements that took place during the 70s, right? You had all these power movements that were raising up, and yeah, exactly, and they were trying to come up and claim power for themselves, right? But what was missing? The breath. The breath was missing in these bones and in these bodies with sinews and muscles. So when we look back at those movements, they didn't even speak anything about the Bible, nothing about God. They were speaking about, the Black Panthers over there with guns. You had the Brown Berets over there with their farming power, right? The numbers and power, right? Talking about how they would take over. That it was time for them to stand up and get their own power, right? But none of that had any truth none of the truth from the Bible were in those movements, which is why those movements were all co-opted by our enemies, these Edomites. They all infiltrated them, and they ultimately took them down, right? That's why a lot of those civil rights leaders of those times now have cushy jobs in society, right? They're either working for the government, or you got people like Reverend Sharpton and Reverend Al Sharpton, and there's some other people out there, right? Who basically now they're basically a bunch of sellouts, right? All working with the government to ultimately sedate our people and try to put them back to sleep, right? But see, that right there was simply just the jarring and the shaking of bones in the rebuilding of our people, right? But it wasn't until Abba Bivens came on the scene that the Lord started to wake him up, and little by little you had small groups being raised up, learning this truth, right? So while you had there's a movie that the Apostle Gabar brought out. I think it was Malcolm X, I believe, where in the beginning of the movie scene, right, you had was it Malcolm X or I believe it was Malcolm X. I seen the scene myself, right? We're basically out there like in I think it was like in Harlem or New Jersey, around there, New York. You had a bunch of black people in a Negro neighborhood, right? And you had little groups teaching all these neighborhoods, and they had people around them, and the speaker were on soapboxes, right? You had the Islam group here, you had the Black Panther group there, right? And you had all these different organizations. You had the Moorish people there, but in the back you also had a group of Hebrew Israelites, right? In the way back in the scene, standing on their soapbox, talking about the Bible and how they had to come back to the Bible, right? That right there was the Abba Bivens and the commandment keepers there, right? So though this truth was out there, it was only gathering the very small elect back at those times, right? But these other bones that are being spoken about here in Ezekiel are these other movements which were bigger, larger, more famous, and had more notoriety, but eventually went to nothing, right? Well, eventually the Lord, he continued to grow groups like the commandment keepers, which then split off and became the UPK, right? And then eventually, or the Universal School of Universal Practical Knowledge, and then it became the House of David after another split, and that eventually became the Great Millstone, which was a split after the House of David was split up. Okay, well, what happened is that truth started to permeate even more, because why? Because it was now time for this truth to go to the masses, right? And the previous group that had woken up, this previous group of bones that had come together but had no breath of life in them, their time was gone now. They were all older people now, whose time had come and gone. And now for the younger generation to come up, it was time for us to start getting this information, right? So the Lord, not only did he put it into the hearts and minds of our teachers, the apostles, and all the elders that followed them, but he then put it into our minds when we were brought back here on earth. Okay, this is why when we finally heard this truth, be it that we were a teenager or middle-aged, or I'm sorry, mid-20s person, you know, out in the street doing something, or watching a TV show, or this truth got brought to us by one of our friends or family members. When that truth hit us, something snapped in us, and we woke up, right? We started to realize that this was the truth, and we've all heard it, right? We're brothers who are in this truth say that once you started hearing this, that you did nothing but for the next couple of weeks, but just watch videos day and night. That you'd wake up and you'd put a video, a lesson on, and you would just watch lessons throughout the whole days. I still do that till this day, right? And the thing is that this was the awakening. This was putting the breath of life into our bodies that the Lord needed to happen, so we could go out there and teach our people, so that way we could be those vessels that would go forth, those watchmen that would go warn our people and give them information and understanding. So let's get back to this. It says, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say unto the wind, thus saith Yahawah power, come from the fourth winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. And then he said unto me, son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. So you see there, so even here it was revealed unto Ezekiel that these bones were the whole house of Israel, which we understand the whole house of Israel today would be the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, and anybody whose father's lineage goes back to that bloodline. Okay? So right here, like I just said, the Lord eventually would re-breathe into us the breath of life, the understanding of the Bible, and that we would instead of this time where we would stand up, or we would come together where there was no breath of life in us. When we came together this time, the breath of life was there. And what did it say we did? It says, and they stood upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. Okay? And that exceedingly great army is what you're seeing now, right? With the apostles, brothers like me, the other brothers out here who have been teaching this truth, basically looking and seeking the elect to wake them up so that way they can be part of this great army. What is that army? That army is the 144,000 elect plus the 1/3 of our people who will be saved when the Lord comes back, right? And what are they going to be saved for? We're going to be saved, Lord willing, so that way we can go ahead and rebuild the society. We can go ahead and create, we can then recreate the world under the righteous image. And the brother Adam Nana brings out Colossians 1:9. For this cause we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you, and to desire that ye might be filled with the knowledge of his will and all wisdom and spiritual understanding. Verse 10, that ye might walk worthy of the Lord unto all pleasing, being fruitful in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. Beautiful. Thwada, brother. Exactly, right? So when an elect or one third of our people wake up, they hear this truth. That desire we get in our body is we want more, right? More of what? More of this understanding. So what do? We go out. We start watching more lessons. We start, basically listening to more people. We start gathering, our own books, right? And why is that? Well, because we're now starting to reawaken and come back to the truth of who we are, right? We're starting to be part of that great awakening that our enemies are seeing and are deathly afraid of, right? And what do? For us who are in the righteous camp, right? The 1/3, when we get this truth, we go out and we start teaching our fellow brothers and sisters, right? We're not here hiding it. We're not here trying to make merchandise out of it, right? Because again, we're not out here to try to make a name for ourselves or try to make money off of this truth. No, we're simply doing what the Lord has commanded us to do, which is to go out to the highways and byways and teach onto our people, right? Bid those to the wedding feast. That's what we're doing here, is we're bidding our people to come to the wedding feast, which ultimately is the end of the world, and to be in the party that's going to be saved. But a lot of our people, they don't even listen. They don't even consider, nor do they even look, right? They pull the shoulder and they move on about their day, thinking that they're too busy for immortality. They're too busy for the kingdom of heaven. But again, that's a them problem. That's not an us problem, right? See, what did the Lord say? Prophesy unto the wind, right? So we're just here. The Lord commanded us just to be out here and just prophesy, and those who will hear, and those who will forbear shall forbear. And plain and simple. And the Lord ultimately is going to mark salvation or destruction of whoever He will, right? Because it's ultimately up to the Lord. But again, these people have to hear the word of the Lord, which is what we're here doing, fulfilling. And this is what you brothers do too. When you go out there and you preach in your own cities or in your own locations, or even when you go online and you share scripture, what you're doing is you're basically having the Lord answer those people to whatever the post is about and all that stuff, okay? So that being said, let me continue. It says, verse 12, therefore prophesy and say unto them, thus saith Yahawah Bashimashai power, behold, my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves and bring you into the land of Israel, right? Now ultimately that coming out of our graves means that as we were walking here as Americans, as Mexicans, Negros, Native American Indians, we were basically walking dead, right? Because at one point when we died, knowing that we were Israelites, we died and we stayed dead. But when we were reborn in the reincarnation, but in those reincarnations, we were taught that we were Indians, we were Negros, we were Latinos. That we didn't know that we were Israelites. We never really came back to life, right? We were simply just these dry bones, right, in the valley of death. But now that we're being told who we are, and we're coming back to our true heritage, which was given to us from the beginning of time and by the Lord, now we're coming back to our true identity. Now we're those past people who are now coming back from that amnesia, out of that coma, and now we're waking up and we're like, well, what happened? Well, where are we? Right? Well, we're here in the land of our captivity under our enemies, and now we got to wake up the rest of our people, right? The rest of our people being the 1/3 of our people, because again, 2/3 of our people aren't going to get this, right? In fact, they're going to fight against this. They're going to think this is a bunch of foolery. But again, this wasn't for them, because ultimately they were rejected by the Lord, and the Lord never gave them faith, which is why they feel the way they do, right? That or they're tares, right? Meaning that their father's lineage goes back to an Edomite or another one of these nations, which was never chosen to be given faith or to be given any of this truth. Continuing. Oh, and right there where it says the Lord is going to take us back to Israel, because out of all this stuff that we're doing here, because again, like the elder Yahawah says, man, we're not just out here in garments, right? Out here teaching, shouting down the white people and all these stuff and admonishing our people just so we could do it for fun. No, there's a reasoning behind all this, because the reason, once we're all done with this and all the elect have been sealed, this message has gone out through the four corners of the earth, then the end shall come, and then those who were found worthy shall be taken up into these chariots, and then eventually be taken back to the land of Israel to restart humanity, restart society in a beautiful heaven-like environment upon the face of the earth. And us Israelites who are chosen, Lord willing, that's us, we're going to be the heads of this, right? We're going to be the kings, the priests, we're going to be the nobles of the world, and for those 2/3 who are going to come back through reincarnation, right through the loins of the 1/3 that did make it, they're going to be in a state of shame, realizing that they messed up, that they didn't believe the Lord. But eventually that'll pass, and but again, they're not going to be some high-powered, leader in the land of Israel. No, they're just going to be Israelites living amongst the world, and having theirs, right? Every Israelite's going to be blessed, right? But there's going to be some who are blessed more than others, and others who are given more responsibility than the others, right? And along with that responsibility comes honor and glory. Okay, and how do you get that? You get it by fighting in spiritual war, which is taking place now, which is surrounding us, right? That's what really this whole LGBT thing is, the good and the evil that's fighting right now. That's what it is. It's that spiritual war that is taking place upon the face of the earth, and a lot of people are naive to it because they've been trained throughout the years to not think spiritually, right? And that, and also too that these Edomites, they're just not spiritual at all. But our people who are supposed to be naturally spiritual, we've been untrained and misinformed as to what all these spiritual things going around us really mean, right? So let's continue. It says, verse 14, and shall put my spirit in you, and ye shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. Then shall ye know that I, Yahawah, B'Shem Yahawashi, have spoken it and performed it, saith Yahawah, B'Shem Yahawashi. There you go. See, so that's a future prophecy that the Lord has told us that He's going to do. That He's going to ultimately scatter us into the four corners of the earth. We're going to lose our heritage. We're going to go into bondage, into captivity under our enemies, but that the Lord will eventually wake us up. And how is He going to wake us up? By bringing back the prophets of old, by having them teach our people, to instruct our people, and read to our people, right, the words of the Lord, which is going to reawaken the spirit of our people, right, and cause them to return back to their true heritage, and hence, do those things that are pleasing to the Lord, and ultimately be saved for, out of the coming destruction, which is going to come upon the face of the earth. Now, next, like I said, right, because again, now that we understand who these dry bones in the valley of death were, and how the Lord will eventually, reawaken us and put that spiritual, flesh, sinew, and blood and spirit back into us. How do we get like that? How did we get in a state where we became these dry bones in this valley, and we're here in the land of our enemies? Well, it tells you in Jeremiah 17:4. It tells you, Jeremiah 17:4. Let's start with that. It says, and thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. Right? So you see right there was the declaration that the Lord made. Now this particularly was being made to the southern kingdom Israelites that were still in the land of Israel. Us northern kingdom, we had already been kicked out prior to this. But this still falls upon us, right? Because again, we're Israelites as well, and hence we also lost our heritage, right? And when you go into, let's read it real quick, Judges 2:20, there's a reason why this happened, right? There's a reason why the Lord would cause us to lose our heritage. This is Judges 2:20. And the anger of Yahawah was hot against Israel, right? Did I not just read that the Lord said in Jeremiah that we have kindled a fire in his heart that shall burn forever? Well, here you go. And the anger of Yahawah, Bashim Yashai, was hot against Israel, Israel being the Negro, Latino, Native Americans. And he said, because that this people hath transgressed my covenant, right? Meaning we didn't follow the laws that we promised the Lord we would. We didn't keep his commandments, which I commanded their fathers, and have not hearkened unto my voice. I also will not henceforth drive out any from before them of the nations which Joshua left when he died, that through them, these other nations, that through them I may prove Israel, whether they will keep the ways of Yahawah to walk therein as their fathers did keep it, or not. Therefore Yahawah Bashim Yashai left those nations without driving them out hastily, neither delivered he them into the hands of Joshua. So you see that? So these nations, like the Egyptians, which I'm looking at right now at a convenience store ran by Egyptians, a Moabite Chinese food store, right? Or a whole, all these other nations, the Edomites, white people, the Arabs, all these other nations were left here and not disposed of, because the Lord was going to use them to ultimately be a test, for us Israelites, to see that would we go rather with their ways, would we hearken onto their ways, or and do that which is wicked, or would we, honor the covenant that we've made and our fathers made with the Lord, and follow the Lord's way, right? Be separated from all the heathen, right? Separated meaning being holy. Well, again, that's what's happening right now, right? The Lord now is seeing who is separating themselves, who is making themselves holy, and who is ultimately cleaving on to these other heathen nations. Now, ultimately, there's going to come a big test. That test is being taken of that implantable microchip. But again, that's going to be a test that's not far off. We're already starting to see the infrastructure being built today. But again, it ultimately is going to be a test everybody's going to have to take. Now, let's go read this. We're going to get into Deuteronomy, because we're going to get into some of the curses that will fall upon us, Negro, Latino, Native Americans, for not following the Lord, right? And which would be the test that the Lord would put us under to test us, to see if we would ultimately be righteous to him and be loyal to him. This can be found in Deuteronomy 28 and 15. We're going to read there all the way down to verse 29, which isn't all the curses, but it's the beginning part of them, which is some of the more important things, right? So this is Deuteronomy 28 and 15. It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahawah Bashim Yashai thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So right here, Moses, he had just finished reading off a list of all the blessings and the benefits we would get if we followed the Lord's commandments, right? If we kept the covenant. But now, Moses, speaking to the Israelites, the whole congregation, which he had brought out of Egypt. So again, he was in front of a whole group of people, basically who were the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, but back then we were simply known as the Israelites of our own respective tribes, okay? So, and again, back in those days, we were all, for the most part, so-called black people, okay? But the thing is now, Moses was explaining to us, or he's about to explain to us, what would come upon us if we went against the laws and started to break the commandments and didn't keep our word to follow the Lord's commandments, right? He says, what did he say at the end? It says, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Meaning that we will be devoured and we wouldn't be able to outrun these curses, okay? Because again, and we've all had days like this, right? Where you wake up, you stub your toe, you go and you want to get coffee and your coffee machine's broken, or there's no more coffee left, or the milk's out, or there's no more cereal, or there's no more milk for the cereal. You get in your car, it doesn't want to turn on, right? You turn on your car, but let's say your car does turn on, but then you got a flat tire, right? Or you're low on gas and you rent and there's no gas station ahead of time, right? And you're late for work, and all these things just keep piling on and on. It doesn't matter how swiftly you move, how much you try to, take care of one thing and not let it get to you. Eventually, all these things keep coming upon you and will overtake you. Well, that's what happened with these curses, right? Even though you have some of our people out here who are doing good for a little bit, right? They have a nice house, a nice car, a nice family, a nice, nice whatever. Eventually, these curses are going to come upon them, right? If they don't, then that means that either the Lord's blessed them or they're not of the Israelite stock, right? And there's simply they could be a tear, right? That also is a possibility, right? With that being said, let's go on to these curses and see what would happen to us for breaking the Lord's commandments and not following his way. Verse 16, cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field. So again, we're not gonna be leaders here in the cities. We're not gonna be leaders out in the fields, right? And what does that fall under, right? We don't own these buildings. We don't really own these houses. We don't own the fields that a lot of us work on, right? And all these things happen, man. We don't gain the benefits and the richness from these areas. It says, verse 17, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store, right? Meaning, when you look at all the food stuff that we have to buy, most of it's highly refined, processed junk food, right? It's full of poisons and food that's not going to benefit us. Besides that, when you look past that, all the amount of money that we have to pay for eggs, for milk, bread, and all the basic essentials, man, we're cursed, right? For a lot of our people, it's a choice between do you want to have like eggs, or you're gonna have a turkey sausage, right? Or things like that, right? It's a one or the other, right? Unlike these other nations where they could go out and they could buy whatever they wanted, they don't even consider it, right? They have it automatically delivered to their house because one, they're not cursed in their resources, okay? And it says, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kin and the flocks of thy sheep. So again, as you see, we're not going to prosper here, right? Even in our children that we raise up, our children here are not really for our benefits, other than they help to continue our bloodline. Our children, when we raise them up, they go right into the indoctrination school system to be taught how to be good, obedient workers. And when they rise up and they grow up, what do they come back and benefit us so we can get larger lands or develop our farms or our houses more? No, they move on into this beast system, and they then start working for the man, right? And they then start basically being their own slaves. And now we're the parents are now left alone to fend for themselves, and once in a while they get visited by their children. Sometimes their kids will buy them gifts here and there, but it's not to the benefit of the parents like it used to be back in the old days, right? Back in the old days when you would have kids, they would help you build up your empire, your little fiefdom, right? They would be your kids and they would be for your benefit, but not anymore. Now the children only serve really the state and the beast system that we've been thrown all into, right? It says, verse 20, actually 19, cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Meaning, as soon as you're born and you come into this world, you're cursed, right? They've taken your footprint, they've taken a blood sample, they've given you a social security number, you're now in the system, right? And when you leave the system, when you leave this life, you're still cursed, right? You leave a curse for your family because now they're there having to pay to bury you, right? Because a lot of our people don't have the money to pay for their own burial, right? And also, what have you left future generations? If anything, it's very little, but more likely it's gonna be debt, right? And you've left with you're cursed coming in and cursed going out of this life. And it says, verse 20, the Lord shall send, and Yahawah shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, in all that thou settest thy hand unto. Meaning, you want to start your business, you want to do this one thing, you think it's going to make you lots of money, you want to, help your community out. What's going to happen is it's all going to basically, turn around, unless you sell out, unless it benefits these Edomites or these other nations somehow, you're not going to be able to come up. If it's something strictly for you or your community, the Lord's going to destroy you, right? And by making all that come to naught. So it says, fucking cars going nowhere, making all that fucking noise, man. Bunch of fools, man. Bunch of clowns and little clown cars and shit. Yep, exactly. It says, the Lord shall set upon thee curses and vexations and rebukes, and all that thou settest thy hand unto, for to do until they be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. Yahawah shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whether thou goest to possess it. Right? Meaning that it doesn't matter if we left the land of Israel, wherever we would go around the world, these pestilences and these curses would follow us. That's why we tell people, right, that had listened to GOCC years back when they were like pushing off the fly out of America doctrine, like flee out of America, right? All those people who followed GOCC got stuck over in Egypt. And what did Rawchaa, the leader of GOCC, did? He abandoned their asses and he came right back here to America and continued teaching over here, right? As if nothing fucking happened, right? See, the thing is you can't run away from these curses, man. They're gonna get you as soon as you're born and as soon as you die, right? And it doesn't matter where you go, they're gonna follow you. A good example of this is when you look at the Aztec Empire that did manage to come up, even though they were doing things on the left-hand side and being wicked. What happened, right? The Lord caused that civilization to collapse due to massive droughts and famines that hit them before the Lord sent the Europeans to them to destroy them, right? So you see, there's an example of how the Lord is gonna send these curses upon you no matter where you go. And it says, verse 22, and Yahawah shall smite thee with a consumption and with a fever and with an inflammation and with an extreme burning and with the sword and with blasting and with mildew and they shall pursue thee until let me see. It's lucky, yeah, because somebody just threw some fucking food or some chips and shit and stuff. So let's see, that's the devil. It says, and the Lord shall make thee a pestilence, blah, blah, blah. And the Lord shall smite thee with consumption and with a fever and with inflammation and with an extreme burning and with the sword and with the blasting and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And the heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. Meaning that this life is going to be a hard life for you, man. That we're not gonna be all about the nice, dainty, delicate life, man. No, this life is going to be torturous and very hard for us, right? Because and why is that? Well, because of these curses, right? Look at our people, man. Right? Only a few of our people are able to get out of our neighborhoods, and they're able to make a little something for themselves, right? And they're able to appreciate and enjoy some of the finer things in life. And in doing so, they then can now come back to their families and their then they could see that we live in squalor. We live in a very, bad down society, man. Right? Even though, if you, for example, a good example of this is the Latinos over here in America. They think they got it good, right? They live in a small little house, but it has concrete, it has a fence. But you go in there, man, and it looks like crap, right? Like there's buckets everywhere, there's clothing everywhere. It looks like a hoarder's heaven. But to these Latinos who are over here, who have made it, they think they're really doing something. They think they've really made something. Now it's a good, better living than what they've experienced, right? Which is when you go to houses over in Mexico, a lot of those houses are horrible, right? Now, lately Mexico is a lot better taken care of, and those people have come up and they've actually built really nice houses over there. But I'm talking about Mexico back in the 80s, man. Those were basically shacks people were living in, right? And those people who came from over there in those times, over here, the houses that they built over here, they really believe that they're blessed. But when you go into Esau's neighborhoods, you go into his universities, his communities, his shopping centers, you then get to see what the real riches of the land are, right? What it means to live off of the fatness of the earth. You go into these mansions, you go into these amazing gated communities with man-made lakes and ponds, right? You see the way that all the technology in these houses are top-notch, right? See, that's what we ultimately are missing out on, right? Because why? Because this is not our rest, right? This is not our kingdom. This is the kingdom of these Edomites, which is why they're experiencing the best of the best. Okay, this is their heaven, this is our hell. Continuing, it says, verse 24, and Yahawah Bashim Ashai shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. Yahawah Bashim Ashai shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them, and shall be removed into all the kingdom of the earth, right? Showing that we wouldn't have the might in our hand to withstand our enemies, right? Though we may come up against them in one great force with their weapons and their technology, right? And also just the fear of them, our people would be scattered. They would break the line and stuff, right? And ultimately we would be destroyed. Now this is also talking about spiritually, right? When you look at our people, we march, let's say we want to stop gentrification in a neighborhood, there ain't shit we could do, right? Though we'll march one way, whatever. We'll try to, organize community uprisings or community voting, right? These devils, through their bureaucracy and their political power and just overall power, they then satiate some of us by giving some people, by making them be sellouts, right? By giving them a little handout, or other people being satiated by some little law that gets passed or things like that, right? See, our people, we don't stand together. We're always divided, and we're able to withstand our enemies, okay? Be it physically, spiritually, mentally, right? That's ultimately the curse that's fallen upon us, that the Lord put upon us. It says, verse 26, and thy carcass shall be meat unto all the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. And what that means is how if you look at the Negro, Latino, Native American neighborhoods, all these other nations out here, like the Arabs, the Chinese, the Armenians, and all these people, they've all opened up these businesses and shops around our neighborhoods, right? And you don't see a so-called Mexican owner, so-called Negro owners of these shops. You'll see an exception every once in a while, but predominantly, all these shops around our neighborhoods are always owned by these other heathen nations. They're those fowls that are picking our carcasses, right? Basically, making money off of our dead bones. Okay? And it says, verse 27, and Yahawah Bashim will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerald, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. Right? This is talking about like the cancers, the tumors, and all these these larger diseases that fall upon our people, right? The diabetes and all these things, right? Emeralds also mean tumors, right? But the thing is if when you look at our people, we are one of the people that suffer most of this. Why is that? Well, because we're the ones that eat the most of this processed, refined, food-like substances out here that they try to, pass for food, right? That's another reason why when you look at the ingredients, a perfect example is Heinz ketchup, right? Heinz ketchup, when you look here in America, it has like 17 different ingredients, including all these chemicals and all these things which can lead to carcinogens, which also lead to tumors, right? All these dyes and food preservatives. But when you go up to simply Canada or even Mexico, right? That same item, ketchup, is made with the organic, straight up normal food items, right? No preservatives, no dyes, no sugar substitutes, nothing like that, man. See, and this is why, right? Because these prophecies had to be fulfilled, and these curses had to come upon us. Okay? And it says, verse 28, Yahawah will smite thee with madness and blindness and astonishment of heart, right? So meaning that besides all these other things going on to us, the Lord's going to smite us with madness, meaning that we're going to go crazy, right? We're going to think that, following the ways of this wicked world is actually a good thing, right? That's madness, right? Following the whole LGBT movement, that's madness, right? All these different things, all these things that are being pushed as righteousness here in America are a lot of it's wickedness, right? And our people falling in line with it, trying to go along and be a social justice warrior to show that they're down and they're friendly and they get along with everybody. That's ultimately wickedness and a form of madness that's fallen upon our people, right? And the blindness that the Lord talked about here is the blindness that came upon our people, the spiritual blindness, right? Where we're not able to see that these Edomites are our enemies, that these Moabites, these Ammonites, these Mizraimians, that they're our enemies, right? That they're not out here for our good, right? We're out here spiritually blind, thinking all these people want to help us, that we just have to work harder, and then if we eventually keep working hard and busting our asses off, we'll eventually make something of ourselves. No, man. See, the thing is that the Lord has blinded us to this, so that way we could lose our heritage, we could lose our ways, and we could ultimately be pliable captives to our enemies. But now that the Lord has given us sight again, right? What did the Lord say He would do? He would bring sight to the blind, right? That's what the truth of the Bible has done, right? It has given us that breath of life, which has reawakened us and given us our spiritual vision again. So now we see that when these devils try to come out with these snake bites that they want everybody to take or else you're going to die, that's a bunch of lies, right? We avoid that, right? We avoid these devils telling us that Jesus looked like an Arab guy and they got his body and they recovered his DNA, right? We go look past all that bullshit because why? Because we've been given the spiritual eye self, which has given us our vision back again, okay? So that being said, let me get this, because one thing too, which is another good marker upon our people, which is a plain sight that shows you that we're the Israelites. You can read about this in Haggai 1, and I'm going to start at 5. Now therefore, thus saith Yahawah of hosts, consider your ways, right? So right here, Yahawah, the Most High Father, is saying, he's all, think about what's going on in your own life, right? Now, consider this, right? Because again, a lot of our people right here just think that they're black, they're Mexican, they're Salvadorian, they're Colombians, they're Indians, right? But the Lord is saying, look, think about this. He says, ye have sown much and bring in little, ye eat, but have not enough, ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes, right? And it goes in, and this right here, it basically goes in and it talks about all these little conditions, which when you compare this, it falls strictly on the Negro, Latino, Native Americans as an entire race of people, right? Now, yes, like I said, there's always exceptions. There's always people of our nations who are blessed, right? Or there's people who have sold out, or there's people who have also just are not our people, but they're actually terrorists that will make it and will have benefits. But as a race, as in large, our people are basically just earning money to put it into a bag with holes. What does that mean? That means when you get your check, you already have taxes taken out of it. You're already having to pay for all this rent. You're having to pay for all these bills. And at the end of your paycheck, you only have a little bit left. And what is that good for? Is it good for you to rest and live off of for the next couple of months? No, it's only good enough for you to have enough to support yourself until the next paycheck. So you have to work and you have to go buy gas and you have to go buy all these things just so that way you can make it through another 2 weeks at your job to survive, so you can get another check. So then you can make another bit of money that'll let you survive to the next 2 weeks, right? See, that's the plight of our people, right? Now, who doesn't have it like that, right? These East Indians, though, they're one of the most successful minorities here in America. The Chinese don't have it like that. The Arabs definitely don't have it like that, right? They have so much money that they only come over here to work to make even more money, right? Right? And these Edomites definitely don't have it like that, man. Working for them for the majority of them is an option, right? So the thing is this here falls upon our people, man. Now next, let me get this. This is Wisdom of Solomon. and 12, and it says, but they counted our life a pastime, and our time here a market for gain. For say they, we must be gaining every way, though it be by evil means. For this man that of earthly matters maketh brick vessels and graven images, knoweth himself to offend above all others, right? So the point being is that these devils, though, they built up this world, they've set up these systems, these economic systems, and the entire system that we're in, right? And they've set up all these beautiful monuments, so much so that they're almost like idols, right? They are considered the gods upon the face of the earth. So our people have turned to them to worship these systems, these idols. And what are those? That's the basketball teams, the baseball teams, the NFL, the movie stars, right? The political parties, right? All these things that have been built by these devils are systems to replace the true God, right? And this system that they built is a market for gain for them, right? They make money off of our backs, right? And though it says, though they make it by evil means. So this system that we're trapped in, not only is it causing us to go spiritually off and worship what we should not be worshiping, but it also, it feeds off of us. It basically makes a living off of our backs. So again, who is primarily subject to this? Us Israelites, the Negro, Latino, and the Native Americans. That we're the ones subject to this system, okay? And the beautiful thing is that our people are starting to realize this, right? And you're seeing this now in the younger generations, right? These are the generations that a lot of the baby boomers are saying, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to make money anymore. No, our people, namely the younger kids, they've seen their parents grow up. They've seen their parents work night and day, work their hands to the bones, and basically at the end of their life are fucking done for, right? They got nothing to show for it, and they've lost their families, they've lost their livelihoods, they've lost those houses, right? And all of that shit was for nothing, right? So a lot of these younger generations, they're done with working, they're done with the system, right? So they're opting out of it, right? This is why you're seeing these Generation Zs, even though a lot of them do really stupid shit, they know that the system is set up as a system of exploitation, right? And also, on top of that, our people, their spirit is changing, right? The Lord is putting it on the spirit of the Israelites to no longer be in that subjection-like state, right? And when you can look at the older generations, right? They wouldn't dare speak anything bad against the white man or anything bad against their managers or their bosses, right? For fear that they're going to lose their jobs. When you look at the younger generation, they could give a crap about it, right? There's plenty of jobs out there, right? And they're more about being respected or not, working themselves for something that isn't going to benefit them, right? But again, that right there too is a prophecy that would happen to our people once our curses and our punishment would be over. And right now that we're living in this time, 2023, we're now living in the end days. And in these end days, the curses are starting to come up off of our people, primarily so that way we can wake up to find out to come back to the remembrance of who we were. Okay? But in doing so too, these curses are falling off of us, and now we're starting to have a different spirit on us, right? We're not those servants, right? Another example of this is what is it? When you see a lot of those old Edomite men out there trying to push around, boss around young so-called black guys or Mexicans, right? These white people really think they have that demeaning of power over our people, and you see all those videos, they get knocked out, they get punched out, and they're out there cold on the street, right? And that's because there's a different spirit on these younger generation of our people, right? We're no longer sitting back. We're no longer those scared so-called savages that these people believed that they had under control, right? We're the Israelites of the Bible, the true rulers of this world, right? So let's read this. This is Lamentations 4:22. It says, actually I'm going to start at 21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, talking about the white people, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. Right? Meaning that this eventual craziness, these curses that the Lord put upon us, that cup of craziness that the Lord made us Israelites drink and go off and go crazy, where it caused our women to go off and seek that whole feminism tip and our people to go away from our original ways, right? To make ourselves naked, not physically, but spiritually, right? Where we basically had no real protection, right? This cup now is being passed on to these Edomites. The curses are not coming off of us and now going upon these Edomites. This is why you're seeing these Edomites now pushing all these trans movements, all these weird ass lifestyles, and they're just being destroyed as a people. Their women are for the most part no longer really into them. They're now dating these other nations. And why is that? Well, because these Edomite men have been so feminized that they're no longer seen as suitable mates for the women of the Edomite race. It says, verse 22, the punishment of thine iniquities is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquities, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So that point there, it tells you, the point there is that our iniquities, our punishment for our iniquities, us Israelites, is over. They've been completed. So we've now gone to the corner for long enough, and now the Lord is now calling us out of the corner to say, hey, come back to the table and come back and join the family. Right? That's ultimately what's happening, right? And in doing so, the Lord has put these curses upon these, is now putting these curses upon these Edomites, and along those curses, the Lord is also revealing their sins, revealing their wickedness, which is why you're hearing about all these stories about past atrocities that these Edomites did with slavery and captivities, and how they went into these other nations and destroyed them and basically did all these wicked co-opt operations upon them, right? And again, this is why you're seeing they're trying to stop teaching CRT, critical race theory, in schools, because they don't want this truth to come out, because they're ashamed of it, right? Because their iniquities, their wickedness is now being revealed to the world. So that being said, let's get this. Let's go to Deuteronomy 33:29. It says, happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people, saved by Yahawah, Bashim Yashai, the shield of thy help, and who is the sword of thy excellency. And thine enemies shall be found liars unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. Right? So you see, what's going to eventually happen is that as more of these truths come out, as we start to wake up more and more the curses start to fall on these Edomites, we're going to start seeing that there's a lot of lies that we were told as truth of who we were, who they were, how the society is ran. We're going to start finding out that our leaders have been lying to us, that they're going to be liars, right? And in doing so, we're going to tread their high places, meaning we're going to take control over everything that they see as holy or as important, right? And what does that mean? That means that we're ultimately going to rule over them. We're going to be the new rulers over their society, right? So that being said, let me update the battery real quick. good now. All right. So yeah, so ultimately what's going to happen is once these curses start coming off of us, they're going onto these Edomites, and we're seeing this now, right? Where the Edomite children are becoming, they're changing their genders, right? And their parents think this is a good thing, right? Not realize that they're letting all these alphabet people into their armies, not realizing the armies are going to be ultimately becoming weaker, right? The Edomite Empire is through, right? It just has to go for that great fall, right? Which is going to eventually come fairly soon, right? So now that we have that, let's read this, because this is ultimately what's happening right now, and a lot of our people, they're not seeing it, but eventually they're going to see it, right? This is Hosea 1 and 10. It says, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God." Right? And that's happening right now. Right? Literally right here with me telling, speaking into this camera and sharing these videos, right? We're telling the Negro, Latino, Native Americans that you are the Israelites, you are the sons of God, and that God is calling you back into your rightful heritage, and to remember who you were as a people, right? And in doing so, to reclaim that which is yours, which is ultimately the gifts and the power here in the Bible, right? Because again, this ultimately has to come to pass for our people to realize who we are. Okay, is that you're gonna see brothers like me, the apostles, out here teaching this truth for a particular particular time, but eventually what's gonna happen is that the Lord is gonna finally say that's enough, and that's gonna happen when the elect are sealed and this truth has finally been preached to all over the world, right? But by that time, the 144,000 plus the 1/3 of Israel will be sealed. The world will finally, everybody will hear this truth, and then the Lord is going to finally say, okay, well now you can bring forward the judgment, because everybody has heard this truth. Nobody can say they didn't know about it. Okay? So again, our people are now being told that they're the Israelites, and all these other things going on, right? And along with us being told we're Israelites, the Edomites, these white people are being told that they're Edomites, Chinese are being told that they're Moabites. The covering cast of the nations are falling off. So, and eventually what's going to happen is that 1/3 and 144,000 of our people are going to realize that what we're saying is true. And this is what's going to happen to them. This is Barak chapter 2 verse 30. "For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivities they shall remember themselves." Right? And that's what's happening, man. Our people are starting to remember who we are, right? They're starting to remember that we're the Israelites, right? And they don't technically remember, right? Because none of us were alive, right? We've all died since that time. But what's going to happen is we're going to recollect all the things that are being said in the Bible, right? We're going to remember the things that were told about in our history, right? About our people, the Aztecs, the Negros, the Native American Indians. We're going to start to see the similarities between the old fables of the Aztecs, the Indians, the Negros, and we're going to realize that was really just a crude explanation of the stories of the Bible, right? Like for example, the Aztecs, we had a fable, right? An old folk story known as Aztlan. Aztlan was our ancient homeland, which we say was in the land of the east over the sea, where the sun rises, and it was on the border of Babylon. Right? Now where else what could that be? That's the land of Israel. Okay? We also said that our ancestors came over here on boats and to dwell here. Right? And that ultimately that Quetzalcoatl, our God, would come, take us up into the air like eagles, and return us back over to Aztlan. Right? That's the story of us Mexicans, right? So again, if you understand the story of the Bible, that's basically what the Bible talks about, how we're going to be raised up in these chariots and return back to the land of Israel. Okay? But little by little, our people are going to start seeing this, and this is going to start permeate into all of our people, and little by little, our people are going to start to wake up to this truth. Well, at least 1/3 of our people, that is, right? But then, eventually, once our people see this, our enemies are also going to see this. But unlike our people, when our people see this, our people are going to be happy, and they're going to be proud, and they're going to be all excited for this. It's going to be a little different for our enemies. Let's read it. It says, this is Revelation 11 and 12. It says, and they heard a great voice. I'm sorry, 11 and 11. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they fell upon them which saw them, right? So our enemies, when they start seeing that the Negro, Latino, Native Americans, that it's more just than a small group of us saying that we're the Israelites, saying that we're the true Jews, when they start seeing that a vast majority of us are now agreeing to this, and we have the records to prove it, we could explain the biblical scriptures like no other. We're able to break it down to the supposed experts, right? Then there's gonna be great fear that's gonna fall upon these Edomites, the Moabites, all of our enemies that put us into subjection, because then they're gonna realize that they didn't just subject and have the Negro, Latino, Native Americans in captivity, but they're gonna be in fear because they're gonna realize that they fucked up and that they had the children of God in captivity, and now that ultimately that's gonna cause a punishment to come upon them, right? And it says, verse 12, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, this is talking about the elect, come up hither, and they ascended up into heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them, right? So us Israelites, the elect, the 144,000 plus the 1/3, there's going to come a time when the Lord is going to show up, and he's going to ultimately call up us Israelites, the elect and the 144,000, up into these chariots. And what does it say? It says, and their enemies beheld them. So while we're being raised up, our enemies are going to see, wondering why they're not being taken up, right? Wondering why, they're Christians, they're Mormons, right? They fed the homeless, they gave out pancakes on Skid Row and all this stuff. They're going to wonder why they didn't get chosen, right? Because they were calling on Jesus, they were calling on Virgin Guadalupe, and they're going to be there wondering what the hell is going on. Why aren't they being taken up, right? And that's pretty much it. And then it says, verse 13, and the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th parts of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the brethren were affrighted and gave glory to God of heaven. Meaning that great earthquake is ultimately going to be when these nuclear missiles basically fall on America. There's going to be such great catastrophe across the United States. There's going to be so many nukes that are going to hit America. It's going to be a great, huge earthquake. So much so, it's more likely it's going to cause the Yellowstone caldera, that big old volcano that's underground over there that's about to blow. It'll probably cause that to blow, right? And it's going to say, it said 7,000 men were destroyed or slain. That means 7,000 just means a complete number of men. There's going to be thousands upon thousands of people who are going to die in this nuclear annihilation, right? And that's pretty much it, Akim. But yeah, and that's pretty much it, Akim. So that right there shows you, man, that this world cannot stop the great awakening of the Negro, Latino, Native Americans. And why? Well, because it's biblical prophecy that we would wake up and come back to our true heritage, which is what's happening right now, right? So all these brothers out there, all these different camps, even these new ones, they're doing a good work because they're telling our people who we are. Now, ultimately, in all these camps, there's only one camp, or really one group of people who have the 100% truth, which were sent and ordained by God, and that would start with the apostles of Great Millstone on down to all the elders and leaders of those groups and men in those groups who are teaching the same doctrine. Okay, so that's who the Lord has set up here and who have basically pushed this word out through. Right, we're the prophets who the Lord has chosen to prophesy onto these dry bones, which are our people, and to cause the great awakening to happen. So Again, hopefully you found this video edifying, Akim. Until the next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahawah, Ba'Shem, Yahawashi, Ba'Shem, Qadash, Barak Yahawah, Barak Yahawashi, Barak Yahawah, Barak Yahawashi, Barak Yahawah, Barak Yahawashi, Ba'Shem, Qadash. For joining today, Akim, double honors to my teachers, the apostles and the elders of the great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom. Till the next time.